The events of this story take place in a small town located in a remote area surrounded by dense and dark forests. This area was known for mysterious accidents and unexplained disappearances of people. In this town, two orphan friends named Sarah and Lena lived. Sarah and Lena were close friends who loved to play in the forest next to their homes. They played a game called hide and seek, where one of them would hide and the other would search for her using a flashlight. This game was very entertaining for them, and they enjoyed it a lot. One night, Sarah and Lena decided to go out and play hide and seek in the forest. As soon as they arrived at the forest, they felt tense and disturbed because of the dark and scary atmosphere. However, they did not hesitate to start the game. When the girls arrived at the area, Lena noticed that the forest looked scary and dark, as if it was hiding terrifying secrets. But Sarah thought it was just Lena's imagination and that everything would be fine. Sarah began to hide in the forest, while Lena held the flashlight and searched for her. But as soon as Lena started searching for Sarah, she noticed a strange person wandering in the forest without a flashlight. This person moved between trees and shadows in a mysterious way, avoiding bright areas. Lena felt panic and fear, but she did not run and tell Sarah about the situation so as not to spoil the game. However, when Lena searched for Sarah in the area where she was hiding, she could not find her. At this moment, Lena felt anxious and panicked, and she had to escape from the forest and wait outside until Sarah was found. However, Sarah was not found, and there was no trace indicating where she had disappeared. Rumors began to spread in the town about Sarah's fate, and everyone pointed to the existence of a ghost living in the forest who kidnapped people playing in it. Days and weeks passed, but Lena could not forget what happened on that fateful night. She began to suffer from nightmares and scary hallucinations, and she could not sleep well since then. She felt that the strange person was following her everywhere, and she was not safe anywhere. Lena reviewed her memories to try to understand what happened that night, but she could not recall any details about the mysterious person. She felt angry, sad, and contemptuous, and wondered if she could return to the forest to search for her missing friend. Over time, rumors began to spread in the town about Sarah's fate, and conversations indicated that the strange person was responsible for her disappearance. These rumors increased Lena's worry and deepened her sorrow and despair. In the end, after several years of Sarah's disappearance, her body was found in the forest. However, no information was found about the mysterious person who kidnapped and killed her. After that, the forest began to become an abandoned and scary place, and no one dared to play in it again. In the end, no one knew exactly what happened, but everyone agreed that something strange was happening in this area. This incident left a deep impact on Lena, and she continued to suffer from nightmares and scary hallucinations until now. This story is truly scary and shows the extent of the impact of terrifying events on humans. People should be cautious and avoid places known for mysterious accidents and disappearances. It also highlights the impact of negative rumors and conversations on the human psyche. People should be patient and think consciously when dealing with similar events. In the end, we must always remember the importance of safety and caution when dealing with dangerous places.
Never forget. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway for me and my wife, but it turned out to be a nightmare. We had rented a cabin in the snowy mountains of Wyoming, but little did we know how isolated it was until we got there. The cabin was beautiful and secluded, surrounded by endless trees and with no phone service. On the first night, we watched a movie by the fireplace and decided to end the night by hot tubbing. However, when I went outside to get my swim trunks, I noticed fresh boot prints in the snow that weren't ours. They led straight to a living room window and back into the forest. We messaged the owner, but he didn't respond, so we went back to the cabin and went to bed. At 3 a.m., I woke up to a slight bump on the bedroom window. I figured it was just snow falling, but it happened again, louder this time. When I opened the curtains, I saw fresh boot prints under the window and a figure standing in the snow, just 10 yards away from me. I woke up my wife and told her we had to leave, and we packed and left the cabin immediately. Later, we found out from the owner that there were boot prints all around the cabin, and the figure had stopped at every window. We were terrified, but the situation was out of our hands. We cut our trip short and never found out who or what the figure was. But that's not the end of the story. When we got home, strange things started happening. We would hear footsteps outside our house at night, and sometimes the curtains would move without any explanation. We even found fresh boot prints in the snow outside our house. We never found out who was behind it all, but the fears stayed with us for a long time. We moved away and never went back to Wyoming. The memory of that night still sends shivers down our spines, reminding us of the true terror that can exist in this world. After leaving the cabin we rented in the mountains of Wyoming, our lives returned to normal. However, things started to change slowly. We began to feel, and sometimes there was a tapping sound on the window late at night. But we weren't sure if it was real. The situation became more clear and serious. The unknown person began sending us mysterious messages containing frightening threats. He said he wanted to make us suffer as we did in the cabin, and he would do anything to achieve that. These messages made us feel scared and anxious, and we tried hard to think of ways to protect ourselves. A letter was found under our house door containing a picture of my wife and me sleeping in bed, with a message saying, "I see you." We began to panic and called the police. They arrived quickly at our house, but they didn't find any evidence of the unknown person. They said they would investigate, but we knew it wouldn't be resolved easily. Our lives became filled with fear and tension, and we had no idea about the identity of the unknown person. He seemed to know everything about our lives, and we felt that we were no longer safe in our own home. Despite our many attempts to deal with the situation, the unknown person continued to stalk us. He appeared in different places and was lurking wherever we went. It reached a point of despair, to the extent that we thought about leaving everything and moving to a safe place. But in the end, the unknown person was caught, and it turned out that he was someone we knew before, but he was hiding his identity from us, and he had negative feelings towards us. He was tried and sentenced to prison for several years, but that wasn't the end of it. There were psychological effects of what happened to us, and those terrible memories haunted us all the time. These events opened our eyes to the fact that the world is full of scary and mysterious things, and that it's not easy to deal with them. We learned that life may come with surprises that have dire consequences, and that we must always be cautious and ready to face any challenge that may come our way in the future.
I'll do my best to enhance the horror and drama of the story while adding some new events and developing the characters. I'll never forget that fateful night, just a week before my 18th birthday. It was late summer, and the air was warm and humid. If I had to guess, it was around 2 a.m. I was with my two friends, Jacob and Steven, doing things we probably shouldn't have been doing at our age in Steven's basement. But we quickly grew bored of that and decided to venture outside to find something more exciting to do. Jacob suggested we go to a spot deep in the forest by a small lake where other teenagers often hung out. We grabbed a few old flashlights and started walking, and after a while, we finally arrived, only to find that no one was there. According to Jacob, this was a popular spot, especially at this time of night, but we had no such luck. Feeling even more bored, we decided to walk around the lake to see if we could find anyone. On the other side, we noticed an old, abandoned-looking cabin. Of course, we all wanted to explore it, and that's exactly what we did. We made a lot of noise as we rummaged through the cabin's various items. Eventually, we found ourselves in a small bedroom filled with old, dusty items. Suddenly, we heard the wooden door creak open, and our heads shot up in unison. We stood there, frozen, holding our breaths as we heard footsteps moving around downstairs, followed by an old man's voice. "I know you're up there." We were all genuinely fearful for our lives as we stood there, still frozen. Jacob gestured us towards a small closet in the corner of the room, and we shut the door as quietly as we could, all squished together in this tiny space. We heard footsteps climb the stairs and reach the entrance of the room. The man began sifting through stuff around the room, and then the doorknob to the closet slowly started opening. The door swung open, and Stephen was in front, reacting the fastest by pushing the man to the ground. We all ran as fast as we could out of the room, down the stairs, and out of the cabin. From there, we just kept going, not stopping until we reached Stephen's house. We went back into his basement and took a good 5 or 10 minutes just to catch our breaths. That's when Stephen explained that when he shoved the man, he saw him drop a small handgun on the ground. We didn't sleep that night and pretty much just sat there in shock the whole time. We concluded that there was no way that man lived there. The place was undoubtedly abandoned. But we didn't know where he came from, and we didn't know what he looked like since none of us got a good enough look at him. The three of us are still good friends to this day, but ever since that experience, we've never been back to that area of the forest for obvious reasons. Even now, I still think about what would have happened if Stephen didn't push the man to the ground when that closet door was opened. But that was just the beginning of our nightmare. A few days later, we started receiving threatening letters in the mail, each one more ominous than the last. We knew we were being targeted, but we had no idea by whom. The letters contained cryptic messages and symbols that we couldn't decipher at first. One night, we decided to investigate and went back to the cabin. It was pitch black outside, and we could barely see anything. But as we approached the cabin, we saw a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. We tried to run, but the figure caught up to us, and we found ourselves face to face with the man from the cabin. He was dressed in tattered clothes, and his face was twisted in a grotesque expression of rage and hatred. He shouted at us, accusing us of trespassing and violating his home. We tried to reason with him, but it was no use. Suddenly, he pulled out a knife and lunged at us. We scattered in different directions, and I could hear my friends screaming for help. I ran as fast as I could, tripping over rocks and branches in the darkness. When I finally stopped, I realized that I was lost in the middle of the forest, with no idea where I was or how to get back to safety. I could hear the man's voice in the distance, calling out for me. I knew I had to keep moving, but my legs were shaking, and my heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I stumbled through the forest, blindly searching for a way out. Finally, after what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a dirt road leading out of the forest. I ran as fast as I could, not looking back until I reached a gas station on the other side of the road. I collapsed on the ground, gasping for air, and tears streamed down my face. It was only then that I realized how lucky I was to have escaped with my life. The police were called, and they searched the area, but the man was nowhere to be found. We later learned that he was a recluse who had been living in the woods for years, and he had a history of mental illness. The letters we received were part of his delusional attempt to scare us away from the area. But the fear and trauma of that night stayed with us for a long time. We couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if we hadn't escaped. And we were haunted by the realization that we had been so close to death. In the end, we never went back to that cabin or that part of the forest again. but the memory of that night stayed with us forever, a constant reminder of the horrors that can lurk in the darkness, waiting to strike.